Transformers Dark Side of the Moon is one hell of a mess and I hate it. There we go. That's the best intro that I can give you. Because seriously, while Revenge of the Fallen was a movie that made next to little sense because of supposed writer strikes, which we from the previous video understood that it wasn't just that, it suffered from the curse that many franchises that just want to cash in on a popular IP, being the Hasbro toys, suffered from when making a sequel. Just a lack of a good writing. That's all there was. And of course Michael Bay's weird creative vision and extreme horniness. But Dark Side of the Moon is one that I'm going to be comparing to the third installment of Sharknado. Because from what I understood through the explanation of Cody was that by the second installment of Sharknado, there was an understanding that this was a franchise that was failing, critically speaking of course, but that everybody wanted to be a part of. And thus, they started implementing everybody in the third movie. Same thing happened here in Dark Side of the Moon. So many people are in this movie, and they do jack shit. They have Buzz Aldrin. They have Buzz Aldrin, the guy who punched the dude for being a moon landing denier. You can't make this stuff up. But anyways, we're getting further into the Bearverse, and I hope in the least that we're going to be singing songs and praises to the main man, Satan himself. Let's go.
You know Pokemon? It's still popular to this day. Biggest franchise in the world. But in the 90s, it was even bigger. You couldn't get away from it.
If you guys don't know what Pokemon is, you are...
Bezos.
And then, after that dramatic rise, it fell. Just a little bit. It's still big, but it was just enough of a dip that there was a time many worried that this was simply going to be a fad, relegated to the late 90s. So what if it was? What if Pokemon ended up being a fad? The people who played the games forgot about them and grew up. And after a few decades, they were all reintroduced to the world of Pokemon through a live-action movie. This movie, though, is brutal. Pokemon don't just faint anymore, they die. Imagine if you sat in that theater and watched your favorite Pokemon canonically commit war crimes.
I beg you, what the hell is this parody? I've watched Detective Pikachu, as he wrote, not this one. What the hell? It's like one of the skits that the late Ryan Higa would have made. By the way, when I'm saying late Ryan Higa, I'm not talking about the fact that Higa is dead, okay? He's not. He's stepped away from YouTube. That's what I mean. It's just called Pokemon. What in the blazes? Yo, crackhead Squirtle, Pikachu on fentanyl. Yo, what the hell is this?
Movie, though, is brutal. Pokemon don't just faint anymore, they die. Imagine if you sat in that theater and watched your favorite Pokemon canonically commit war crimes. That's Transformers Dark of the Moon.
No, Optimus!
Sentinel. Okay, to be fair, the no-nonsense Optimus was kind of wild. I mean, they've already made Peter Cullen say some weird lines in the past, right? Like in the previous movie, "Give me your face." But I think that in this one, Peter Cullen was face-palming the entire time. Like, am I really... do I really have to say all this?
It's been a long journey in this trilogy. We began with a blast from the 2007 past with the original Transformers, a film that, in my opinion, is still awesome.
Solid.
We suffered through Revenge of the Fallen, a broken movie that everyone involved with disregards to this very day. And we've come now to our final stop, before this franchise plummets straight into rock bottom. Now, if you've come here expecting me to just hate on Dark of the Moon, you might get some of that, I'm not going to lie, but for the most part, you will be disappointed. Because here's a dark secret of my own. I kind of like this movie. Hey look, my credibility just withered and died. The big question you're probably asking is why? And my answer to that is I don't know. It's crass, it's brutally violent, it's somewhat depressing, and is basically the exact opposite of the original series. But at the same time, it's crass, it's brutally violent, it's somewhat depressing.
Oh my god, Bill O'Reilly was there. That son of a bitch. Fuck him.
And it's the exact opposite of the original series.
Washington, D.C. is mine!
Also, I was a teenage boy when this movie came out. I was this movie's exact demographic. So forgive me if I look back on this movie with nostalgia goggles so thick I look like Professor Farnsworth. Does this mean that Dark of the Moon is some special gem, only now appreciated with time? Is this video a defense against a sea of negativity? No, it's still not very good, and all the criticisms against it are still very valid.
Lasers shoot off into outer space as the planet comes into the galaxy, and then the next line is Optimus!
It's just I like dumb things sometimes, and I like dumb things about this movie.
Oh man, like I said, the many characters that are included here, from Dr. Ken Jeong to the guy from 28 Days, Alan Tudyk. Great actors are underused here, and it's just turned into a weird comedy / thing, and this thinking incel. Like, listen, okay, I know that I'm sounding extremely negative here, but I went back, like, briefly went through parts of the movie here. And my word, Sam is the worst. And I'm not saying like incel in the way that people tend to use it nowadays to just talk about people who don't get down. I'm talking about a person who is a net negative to everything around them, acknowledges it, exclaims to the world that they can provide nothing, and they can't get laid, and the whole while the world goes, yeah, that's you. That's Sam Witwicky.
May I finish my Shuhua milk, Donnie?
I don't know, how do I even segue into this? I'm Nostalgia Critic, so you don't have to. Revenge of the Fallen was not a good movie, and everyone kind of knew it. Bay chalked the whole thing up to the writer's strike, and then just went in for the third. Though, considering their track record since the second movie,
God, I'm sozzled.
I don't think it was just because of the writer's strike. Whether unionized labor is to blame or not, the one thing Bay took away from the entire experience was that constant jokes about sex and balls were not an ideal way of doing comedy. Those elements would not be returning for the final movie in this trilogy. Speaking of which,
brace yourselves, the Transformers franchise just got a whole lot less sexy.
Megan Fox is gone. You'll never see her again until like 2022, where she's with Machine Gun Kelly for some reason.
This girl. Yeah. I mean, part of the reason why she was fired was quotes that she made on set, from what I remember, that Spielberg, right, the reason why it's so often said that it was Spielberg that fired her and not Bay, was that she equated Bay as being like a bit of a man-child, but still endearing, right? And saying that he's a little bit like a Nazi on set in the way that he constantly wants to command people to do things that he wants. Obviously, Spielberg did not like that, and he wanted her out. But there's also sayings that Michael Bay, who has a tendency of, over-sexualizing people, had included her in several scenes, and she felt uncomfortable with that. Yet still, as she returned for Dark Side of the Moon, she has gotten plastic surgery, and she was no longer Michaela, thus he wanted her out. So it's like very weird, a whole thing going on there, but Megan Fox later on defended him during the Me Too movement as not being the predator amongst all the others that were involved in that. So, I mean, good on her for defending a guy that was innocent. But yeah, it's weird. It's just weird.
Just a few drops, but yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes.
I said weird. I didn't say disgusting. You didn't need to do this to me.
What the fuck?
She had a very public falling out with Michael Bay, complained about Bay's attitude during filming of Revenge of the Fallen. You know, constructive criticism in a very rational manner, very subtle.
He wants to be like Hitler on his sets, and he is, so he's a nightmare to work for.
I meant subtle in the old English vernacular, as
Hitler.
in not very subtle at all. Because of these comments, she was let go for the next movie. Now, Bay went on to say that he actually had no problem with Megan Fox saying this, but the way that he says it is a little backhanded. Like, oh yeah, I knew it was Megan just being Megan, you know, being a brat. Bay says that while he didn't care too much about the comment, Steven Spielberg, on the other hand, cared immensely. He demanded she immediately be fired. It's funny to think Spielberg was ever associated with these movies, isn't it? So was Bay really not offended, but Spielberg was? Or did Bay just pass the blame to the big producer so he wouldn't look like a little bitch?
You can always use the excuse of Spielberg made Schindler's List, so you might not want to make a comment like that. It's a typical trope, right? He just passed off the blame. But yeah, I don't believe that. It sounds too implausible. The guy who literally said that, okay, Bay, you handle this. I was nothing to do with this franchise. Come on.
Who can say, I wasn't there? Whatever the reason, Megan Fox was out and was replaced with a Victoria's Secret model. Make of that what you will. So, Michaela as a character is now just gone.
Is that your girlfriend?
Mm-hmm. Ex.
So how much of a problem can that be for the finale of this trilogy?
Absolutely nothing.
Not shockingly, it's quite a problem. Because by the time Megan Fox was fired, the script was already finished. Lines, character motivations, everything, the whole shebang, it was done. And the way they decided to patch over this little issue of the main love interest being gone was to just cross her name out and replace it with Carly.
Exactly. That's how little she meant to this entire franchise. Carly literally became exactly Megan Fox, with the only appliance that, given that she's a Victorian model now. Victorian model. Now I'm picturing a lady with a big ass dress. No, a Victorian Secret model. She would no longer work on the cars herself, but sell them instead, and of course still flaunt her. This movie.
Carly, the new love interest, isn't simply a cheap replacement of Michaela. She is Michaela. She says the lines that Michaela was supposed to say and everything. Carly oversees a top-of-the-line classic car collection, which is something that seems pretty random for some British girl that Sam met at the White House. But you know who it's not random for? Michaela, a girl who spent her entire life working on cars and being a mechanic.
That's weird, I just wouldn't peg you for mechanical.
One major point of this movie really seemed to be that Sam, the college-educated guy who was kind of handed everything in his life, was now struggling once he actually had to find a job.
From Obama?
Yeah.
In this office, we're mostly Republicans.
How? How? Dude saved the world. He has a picture with the president, saved the world, worked with the Secret Service. Nobody would give a... It was Obama, Biden, not Kamala Harris. Oh, Linda fucking B. Johnson. Editing Jack here. The reference to Lyndon B. Johnson is simply to state that no Democratic candidate has won the white vote, and by white I mean a majority of America's electorate, which is comprised of 75% white people, since Lyndon B. Johnson in 1968, I do believe. In other words, back then, even Republicans voted for the guy. Okay? Nobody will care. Except, of course, they are massive racists, but that doesn't make sense in the context of the movie.
So.
On the other hand, his working-class girlfriend ended up getting her dream job from hard work, and now Michaela is supporting both her and Sam while he feels inadequate in everything.
No, I don't need any money for lunch. I have money from yesterday's lunch.
Then suddenly, uh-oh, here comes Patrick Swayze. This is kind of an old relationship, and now there's a potential threat to Sam. Then after the entire movie happens and Patrick Swayze is punched in the face, Bumblebee drops the rings and shows that Sam and Michaela are now going to get married. Yeah, we didn't get that. Despite spending the entire last movie building up to just Sam admitting that he loves her, the series' core couple just breaks up off screen. Everything just feels so strange now. It's like if in Return of the Jedi, once Han came back, he randomly started to hook up with that blue chick, and Leia was just cast off into space.
Hey, I mean, she has her brother. I will never get over that.
What if she dumps us like the last girl?
She was mean. You like her.
So this movie is brutal.
You die.
Oh, yeah. Peter Cullen, I'm sorry. The constant grunting. Yar.
There really seems to be an unspoken rule in fiction that as long as your violence is against robots, you can just get away with anything. Rip them in half, blow their brains out, have them fucking disintegrate. Hell, we just have straight up blood now. Anybody remember when these robots were supposed to be full of energon? That blue stuff? Nah, it's just blood now. Because of that, this is probably the most violent PG-13 movie I can think of.
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole Transformers war has always been hinted at. In the 80s series, the war was nothing but idiots slapping each other around and then coming back the next week.
It's no use.
Starscream?
The animated movie, while having so much death, I'm not gonna lie, still had that aesthetic of Gen 1 Transformers that masked the idea of this war.
And then you should not read the comics. Because there's one individual here that he has to talk about. Shockwave, who will make his fellow Transformers eat their own brains. He is Satan. I mean...
Transformers 1 had war, but it was like calling Call of Duty war. The finale is action street fighting. Our cool military dudes go on motorcycles and say woo. The Mountain Dew machine goes on a rampage. We can lump Transformers 2 in with us as well. But Transformers 3? War in Transformers 3 is,
Seal off the city.
This is the tone of a war, and it doesn't really matter that the conflict is between robots that can turn into cars, or that the city just happens to be Chicago. This still feels devastating.
Oh, yeah.
This would be traumatic in real life. Holy hell.
Bro, Chi-Town.
In the original series, the Decepticons wanted to harvest Earth's energy, send it back to Cybertron, you know, that whole thing. They were goofballs. But in this movie, let's just enslave all of humanity. Chicago is an occupied nation. We even have fascist... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's the right term.
Decepticon collaborators.
It's all business, but now it's personal. Do you understand me?
I understand.
They just fucking execute prisoners now. Remember when this started as a ploy to sell plastic toys? That brings me to my other point. The design of the robots themselves. First off, the Decepticons, I guess. Transformers 2 started this cluttered design that the movies never got away from again. Decepticons for the last 2 movies have been a bunch of polygons that are all the same color of gray and black. Now by the 3rd movie, they just stop even looking humanoid.
Yeah.
They're just entirely different species. 4 eyes, mangled teeth. These idiots were supposed to be purple, but now they're just animals. Psychotic, snarling animals. But I can't really complain about that because...
Look at him.
Psychotic, snarling animals. But I can't really complain about that.
Oh my god! I don't care. I don't care. This design is so cool.
Because Decepticons at the end of the day still do look cool. They actually have a far better fate than our poor friends the Autobots. Because the problem with the Autobots is that they just look so damn ugly now. They look way too human. Jesus Christ. I didn't want to see a 15-foot tall Albert Einstein. I didn't need to see his head roll off of his body.
Oh no.
It's been like 12 minutes. I should probably get into this. Remember when the Transformers bombed Iran? I didn't.
Yeah.
So now we assist our allies in solving human conflicts.
We're gonna invade Iran, and we best do that with the use of the Omnibots, of course.
I love that the feds are just like, we didn't tell them to do that. They went rogue. These giant alien robots, they just really cared about Iran's nuclear deal. After like 3 movies, you could really tell that there was a formula these films were following. There's a technology lost to time that must be recovered. One powerful leader of the factions is resurrected, and as usual, it turns out that Transformers and humans have crossed paths before. You see, the moon landing was a conspiracy, but not that type of conspiracy with the sound stages and the Kubricks. No, the moon landing was real. It just had an additional secret agenda other than dancing on the Soviets. The real mission was to investigate an alien spaceship on the, well, you know. This spaceship was actually the most important Autobot ship of all time, and it had the key to winning the entire war before it was lost to space. Damn, it really be like that. I get the Autobots are rebels and we're on the losing side of the Cybertron war, but I'm pretty sure they could have afforded to use a few more fighters, right?
And also, the entire intro scene to this movie, so grey, so boring. They made Cybertron look like the most basic shit that I've ever seen.
After the ship splats down on the moon, NASA is alerted and brings the news straight away to JFK. Now, I love the Apollo missions. Hell, I'm
sorry. I know I'm pausing a little here, but the JFK CG.
Straight away to JFK.
I don't know why they did this, because there are clearly shots in the movie that are in color, where you can actually see JFK's eyes twitch. Dude does not look human. While at the same time they are making use of like body double for Obama and I think, who was it, Reagan? At least another president was also featured there. But like, what the hell? It's so bad. Like when you are focusing on making Transformers as real as possible and you can't even get close to do a human. I mean, you can give the fault of that to like movies that came out at the time, like Tron Legacy and all, but still.
Now, I love the Apollo missions. Hell, I'm probably the only person that remembers that Neil Armstrong movie starring Ryan Gosling. So don't take this as a slight against NASA or space travel, but the first 10 minutes of this movie is an unapologetic circle jerk of the Apollo 11 mission. Dark of the Moon just forgets that Transformers exist for a full 4 minutes. Fun fact, NASA let Michael Bay film a lot of stuff on location. Like a lot of stuff. I know there's criticism of these movies glorifying the military-industrial complex, but what about glorifying the space-industrial complex? Big shuttle. This film really is a NASA movie, though, and you can tell somebody on this production just really wanted to have a movie involving the space program. The Autobots don't even have their own spaceship. They just tacked it onto a space shuttle. There you go. That's your Autobot ship. I need to get back on track. Sam, he's still in these movies.
Oh, God.
For now.
I'm an inventor.
I'm gonna skip over everything Sam does in this movie. He can't find a job. He finds a job. His boss is John Malkovich. Ken Jeong is there.
Wang. Deep Wang.
And he says things, and then he's flown out a window.
By Laserbeak, of all. Who did turn into a freaking vulture.
Dark of the Moon has 2 plots going on. One is about unraveling this mystery, I guess you could call it that, about why the Decepticons are working with humans. Then the other half is after that mystery is revealed, and the good part of the movie begins. So I guess let's start off with the conspiracy part. Dark of the Moon's human plot is all about uncovering this grand conspiracy. The gang goes to Chernobyl, they uncover this wacky ball, and they fight over it with a new Decepticon, one we haven't seen before. I like that Optimus by now has his trailer, and it also transforms, so he gets his little sword and shield from it wherever he goes.
What the hell was that thing?
That is Shockwave.
Satan!
One issue taking these fan-favorite characters from Gen 1 and turning them into edgy monsters is that when you keep the same original names, it's kind of hilarious. It's like if the Balrog was called Wingmaster. Yeah, so anyway, the gang goes to Chernobyl to find this ball, one that's from a Transformer alien ship, and the Autobots are wondering why the Russians had a piece of this tech, and why the Decepticons wanted it. And conveniently, because I assume the feds knew Optimus was gonna ask some questions, they just bring out Buzz Aldrin.
Space traveler, it's a true honor.
The honor is mine.
This is just so corny. I love it. Imagine if you're one of the first men to ever be on the moon, and then decades later you have to pretend that your greatest accomplishment in life was a part of some grand conspiracy involving toy robots from the 1980s. Buzz and his friends explained that they went and explored the ship, just like the start of the movie showed. Optimus tells everyone that the ship had tech that could have won the war, which the start of the movie also showed. One thing they haven't showed is how did the Russians get the engine part in the first place? The answer to that is nothing!
Soviets managed to land unmanned probes. Somehow they must have picked up that fuel rod.
They just hand wave it away.
Somehow they must have picked up that fuel rod.
Yeah, they don't even know.
What? Get out! Everybody get out!
The entire catalyst of this film has no explanation for how the Russians even got it in the first place. The Autobots fly to the moon and retrieve Sentinel Prime. After a little incident at the office, Sam reunites with Simmons to uncover what is really going on.
The actual office. I want to bet that because I think it was about season 7 of The Office that was going on, right? 2011. 2011, 2012, season 7. That they really just needed to include things there. That's what I said at the start. They just took every element of like people and stuff that Michael Bay had dealings with, stuff that were popular in pop culture at the time, implemented it there. I want to bet that he even has some like collaboration with not Kevin Feige. What's the other nerd's name? Josh Whedon, because Avengers will be released the year after, right? Doing similar stuff with the invasion of New York.
Buy my book! Buy my book! Before it's too late, people!
Halfway through this investigation, the revelation is suddenly made that the Decepticons have like 1,000 pillars. They thought there were 5, there's actually like 1,000. They actually let the Autobots find Sentinel, because only Optimus could revive him. They have to protect Sentinel. Sentinel's the key to all of this. Oh no. Megatron's grand plan the entire time was for the Decepticons to take the pillars from the ship and then revive Sentinel, because the two had planned the whole time to meet up like 1,000 years ago before they coincidentally crash-landed right next to each other. Man, Allspark crash-landed, Megatron crash-landed, Sentinel crash-landed, Fallen was here.
The movie
just really
crash-landed.
something, ain't it? It's really something. How did the Decepticons get the pillars from the moon to the Earth? They needed a portal to even get from the moon to the Earth in the finale. We've never seen them use spaceships. When did this plan even begin? Megatron wasn't even awakened until a few years ago, but the Decepticons apparently raided the ship before Apollo 11 even got there, and then hid them across the Earth. But the entire plan hinged on Optimus reviving Sentinel, yet he didn't arrive on Earth until a few years ago also. And if this was a plan that has been in the making for decades, why was this not the first plan? Why didn't Megatron ever use this massive army that has apparently been on the moon this entire time? Where did this army even come from? Why was it buried? It didn't come from the Ark.
So many questions.
WTF to that.
Who cares about the fine details of the writing? They sure didn't. The only thing I know we all came here for is the finale. The finale where a bunch of robots blow shit up.
Yeah.
Class dismissed.
Alright, enough hating. Hating is now illegal. Because the last third of this movie is a treat. Mostly. There's problems, but I'll get to that.
Megatron existing solely so that he could be goaded by a girl to go and kill Sentinel. Literally, that was her only purpose. And of course to make Sam feel bad, which is fair. Dude was just being such a drama queen during the entire movie.
After Sentinel betrays the Autobots, the humans don't like the obvious good guys anymore, so they decide to appease the Decepticons by shooting the Autobots off into space. It doesn't work. Shocking, I know. And then after all the fun times are had, the Autobots come back. How ballsy would it have been, though, if they had Optimus Prime die in Challenger 2? So, if you couldn't tell by now, this last third is why I like this movie. The last third is probably why you like this movie. What else would you like about it? How they killed Ching from Community?
You see the sidewalk down there? Man.
Okay, I take that back. That was pretty funny. The last third is just straight fighting for an hour. It's a good ending to this trilogy. The best fight of the series, by far. I like how they wingsuit into the city.
Yeah, that was cool.
Or how the skyscraper is collapsing in half, and they all have to slide down it like it's Super Mario 64. Did you know this was a practical set? Yeah, they built a whole rig that tilted and everything.
Yeah, the one thing about it, however, is how much bragging they made about it. Like, yeah, we built this. This was super cool. Nobody has ever done this before, despite the fact that so many movies had done that before. Literally, Spider-Man 3, Inception, you name it. It has been done before. It's cool, but man, when you see like the behind the scenes of this, it's crazy.
Say what you will about the rise of CGI, but this is some classic Hollywood filmmaking. What else?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that worm thing. I love that worm thing. I don't even know what it is. It's like a vehicle or Shockwave's pet, I guess. I don't know. I just love Shockwave in general.
Shockwave's coming.
It's a shame too because he doesn't really do much. In the advertisements, he was hinted as being the big bad, and then all he does is just stand around and he looks
menacingly.
Mad. This evil thing's looking at me! Maybe he's like a Pokemon. He uses intimidation to lower everyone's special defense. The Wreckers are kind of annoying as characters, but the idea of NASCAR robots with machine gun turrets just makes my American soul sing. The fact the finale takes place in Chicago too is something I've always loved. New York and Los Angeles are just so overplayed in media, and as an old Midwest boy, Chicago is kind of the big city for me. So to see the grand conclusion of the Autobot Decepticon war be in my backyard, it was pretty neat. As much as I drag the miserable nature of this film, and it's often commented how depressing it is, I think it adds to the stakes, makes the event feel more important and dire. A lot of that is thanks to the soundtrack. Like man, when Optimus is just swinging those swords and the music's going... That's peak. A great soundtrack really hides the imperfections of a film. This tone is something we haven't really seen in summer blockbusters since, at least as brutal as this was. And speaking of brutal, Optimus Prime has always fought in any iteration of Transformers. Even in Transformers 1, he was kind of fighting to defend himself. But then, as the trilogy just kept progressing, the way Optimus fought started becoming a little bit more,
Give me your face.
And we all know that this is really summarized best with how he dealt with Sentinel.
No, Optimus!
I find this descent kind of hilarious. But while Sentinel's death is pretty cold, let's not forget about the way that he finishes off Megatron.
Time to find out.
Dude was cold. I understand now what those Optimus Prowler.
Megatron is Megatron. Like, he's just bullied by Sentinel the entire time. And then at the end of the movie, he finally rises up, and together with Optimus, they beat Leonard Nimoy into a pulp. So how does Optimus approach Megatron in this temporary truce? Just rips his head off? Yet, what if I told you there was another ending? That's what I'm telling you. There was another ending. In the original ending, Optimus and Megatron were still gonna team up to fight Sentinel together, but it was a much longer sequence. The fight was actually gonna be a struggle for them both, and the end result of this fight would be Sentinel dying in combat, not just being executed. The two rivals would then agree to a peace. Yup. That was the original end to the trilogy. Megatron
Well,
would
damn.
simply become sick of the fighting and agree to a peace deal. And we know this because this is how the novelization of the movie ends. The book was adapted from an earlier screenplay. Things kind of end up like they do in the original 80s cartoon. Megatron and the Decepticons leave to rebuild Cybertron, while the Autobots remain on Earth and adopt it as their new home. If you want to know the full story to this, Trans Theories has a good video about it. My point is that we didn't get that though. There is no room for discussion or nuance in this iteration, only death. Our hero of the story finishes off his enemies when they're no longer in a condition to fight. That fits a war film, sure, but I don't think it fits a Transformers film. This final scene symbolizes what the Bayformers films kinda were. They borrowed characters and story beats from the lore, but drastically reimagined everything to be as dark and palatable for adults as possible. Dark of the Moon was that grittiness taken to its most extreme. This was a film that stumbled a lot, but in the end, it at least made this trilogy reach the finish line in one piece, which is something I can't say for a lot of trilogies. I think what really made me appreciate Dark of the Moon is what came after. Nothing makes a bad movie look good than an even worse movie. What else can I say? Run.
No, 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 no. Wait. Wait.
Nano machines, son.
The pill.
Oh gosh.
I'm an inventor.
Oh, we are truly in for a good one with the upcoming movies. I like how he's just universally agreed that Optimus is now a war criminal. Well, Transformers 1 made up for that, but the rest of the movies, gee damn. Once we get to, no, I mean, even in 4, but 5? The whole thing with the lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch is gonna get mad. I'm looking forward to it. Last Night is insane. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, please do make sure to go and subscribe to the PointlessHub channel. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. Wish you all to have a wonderful day. See you guys in the next one. Bye.